Mike's on. Gonna get set up here, boys. Two o'clock, right on the top of the hour. We are
or 1 o'clock Central Time.
Oh, good call, Austin. 1 o'clock Central Time. How about that, boys? Look at Heath's big head in here. It's amazing. It's pretty amazing.
Small.
I'm sharing us out. So we are, I think we're ready to go, fellas. I just got to get this microphone kind of set so I'm good.
We were supposed to start at 1, but...
Building a Refuge is a homegrown podcast. I wonder how much background noise we got in this thing.
It's going to be a bit.
Well, it's all right. No, I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is.
It didn't sound too bad.
All right, fellas. Well, welcome to another episode of the Bar Podcast, coming to you live from the Helm in Lake Crosse, Wisconsin, one of La Crosse's oldest bars. How about that, Heath? Huh?
Yeah.
It's one of the oldest bars in La Crosse. Yeah, hook him up.
There we go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You got a microphone. Hey, how you doing over there, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'll keep the noise down
First time caller, long time listener. Is that what you are here?
Been waiting a long time.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Austin?
Well, yeah.
Co-host?
I mean, he's helped and been at a lot of our events. And
Co-host
such,
and producer.
Hasn't hopped on a podcast yet.
I know. This is pretty cool. We've been wanting to do this for a little while. Hopefully we get some action out here on the live stream anyways. But if you're watching us today, we appreciate it. If you watch us later on, go check it out. You can pick us up on all the streaming services, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Podbean. Those are all our streaming services, so you can go out and check us out. There's a pretty cool environment, though, man.
Yeah.
Hanging out downtown La Crosse.
Yeah.
So is this the first time in a bar?
Hometown.
For you guys?
No, this is not a first time in the bar.
First time in a bar here.
First time in the bar in La Crosse. First time Wisconsin podcast.
There we go.
Yeah.
This is the extension of the bar.
On the weekend of the 102nd annual ski jump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's right. Little ski flyers. But it was a little too windy yesterday.
Yeah,
Right.
no jumps.
No jumps.
No jumps.
But we got a real treat this morning. Right?
Well, yeah.
What did we get this morning? We got beaver.
Oh, yeah.
Bunky's beaver.
Yeah. Bunky's
Hey,
beaver.
Bunky, thanks for the beaver, man. I mean, we got Bunky hanging out with us. Some of you guys that are hanging out with us maybe know Bunky from our Rock and Ride for Hope. He was the chef. Big Ed and Bunky, although Big Ed had gout. He was a little down with the gout, so
He was gouted out.
he was gouted out, man. Gout's a real thing. It sucks for guys and girls, but guys, it really sucks because you can't walk and your wrist hurts. You can't lift chicken rags, and Bunky's got to do all the work. But man, he ripped us some. I've never had it before, Bunky. That was some pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me too.
that was good stuff. So all of you out there, we are wild game eaters. We had wild beaver this morning for a little snack, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, man. So we appreciate being able to do this. Thanks to Deb
Prentice.
Deb Prentice,
The owner.
That's right. Thanks to her, man, for letting us hang out. The funny thing about it is, I used to come into this place a long time ago, mid '80s.
Well, I mean, it's Helm now for 35 years.
Probably more than that. Oh yeah.
80, yeah.
Oh yeah. I used to come down here for 10-cent tequila shots when I was not 21. And that has nothing to do with the Helm. That has all to do with me.
I think the best you're going to do now is the $1 vodka on Thursdays.
And swamp water. They got the best swamp water in town, right?
And the only.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Well, that's because why, Austin?
I am sober.
How many months?
9 months.
That's amazing, buddy.
9 months.
And that's a pretty cool topic that we'll just kick off with. How is it? How do you feel? How is it that going through what you've gone through to come into an establishment like this?
Yeah. So,
and hang out.
I mean, I guess I'll just kind of, for anyone who had watched my episode I did that right around like my five and a half months of sobriety.
Yep.
And so I was still fairly new to it, still getting kind of acclimated back into a regular, I don't want to say regular routine, but everyday life and just kind of trying to maneuver it when drinking had been such a large part of my life and how I dealt with a lot of my personal mental health issues.
Yeah.
When it comes to me and being in a bar atmosphere, when I made the ultimate decision to stop drinking, I just had it in my mind that I was done with it. It was no longer fun to me. I was using it for something that really alcohol is not intended for, and that was to self-medicate.
Yeah.
And now, I get some people asking me like, why do you still go into bars? Why do you do this and that? Well, for me, in sharing my story, 99% of the time, people that are struggling with a drinking problem or something like that, you're going to find them in a bar.
Yeah.
I'm not going to find them at, I may find them at church. I may find them somewhere else, but 99% of the time I'm going to find them in a bar.
Yep.
So I've just seen through integrating back into a bar scene in my own way in sobriety, just sharing my story with a lot of other people and how it's touched them. And sometimes just even makes them rethink how they use alcohol. And if they are using it as a something else that maybe they're dealing with internally, mentally, or even physically. So, and like I said, in my podcast we did, it was a good 60 plus days before I even, outside of treatment, before I integrated back into a bar atmosphere, just because I didn't want to tempt fate with being back around alcohol.
Yeah.
And, it does go back to, like I said, me just, I was so done with it that I don't have, a desire to, when I'm here, to have a drink. I don't have a feeling that I want to go up to the bar and order a drink or a shot or anything like that.
And the reason and for everybody listening out there, this is, I'll take a little bit of a step back. This is, Heath and I are cousins. Obviously, we're all family here. Big appreciation, for all the support Heath, you and I have had through our lives, but even Wave of Austin's what he's gone through. But it's an important question when you think about, bars, right? We catch a lot of, quite frankly, some flack sometimes because we'll do these podcasts and they'll be like, hey, you're a mental health organization, right? And you're hanging out in a bar.
Right.
And I just, I'm grateful for Austin. Obviously, I love him, super proud of him, couldn't be more grateful that he's hanging out. He's talking about this. I think it's kind of appropriate as we hang out, in a bar to talk about this stuff because I think it's real stuff.
Yeah.
Real
And
stuff.
just to kind of come in off of that, because I was kind of thinking about that earlier, how we do have some events in bars and stuff like that. It's not necessarily something I condone because somebody who is obviously struggling with alcohol or addiction or something like that might not be the best place to come to a meeting.
Fair.
But with Building a Refuge, we hold meetings at such a wide variety of places.
Yeah.
That, there definitely are men that are struggling with mental health, but they don't abuse alcohol.
That's right.
So, it is a good atmosphere to connect with men, and they can sit down and have a couple of drinks, unlike me, and, share about their feelings, mental state, and stuff like that.
For sure.
And it's a community, right, Heath? Some of the things that you're doing here, this is the one thing I think that's super cool about La Crosse. I think it's just the area that we grew up in, man. Here in this city, man, like there is a great community around the pool leagues. There's great community around dart leagues. There's great community around, quite frankly, a lot of things that happen in many of the establishments around downtown La Crosse, not only here at the Helm, right?
Right.
So, you're a part of that, right?
For a long time.
Yeah. And how many friends have you gained through that experience?
Just this bar alone, probably 100.
Yeah.
Realistically, that's one bar out of 300 bars in this small city.
Yeah.
Not that I go to many more. I go to maybe 2-3 bars. This is This is the main one.
Yeah.
That's another thing. A great thing too with a community and essentially a second family that you build around in a space like this. That's like me back home at the VFW. I have such a strong, we're not like close friends. We don't go to concerts and stuff together, but being there and they're supportive of me, even not drinking. Sure. And it's just, you grow that connection with people and you share stories and you share things with them.
And for me, I live by myself. I live downtown. I get bored. I'm like, what am I going to do? I come down here. I know for a fact, whether it's an employee here or another customer,
right,
I'm going to know somebody here, right?
Yeah,
now all of a sudden I got somebody to talk to. And I was sitting by myself, being bored, overthinking things.
Exactly.
Whatever. It's a big pool bar, right?
Yeah.
Pool league and stuff like that. League for this bar for 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And you start learning how to make those friendships and connections.
Right.
And it's not necessarily always over drinking.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
over. Well, now we've got a team event that we're doing. We're competing.
Yeah.
Some of the guys drank, some of them didn't. Most of them did. Obviously, around here, that's just kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, I mean, look, drinking's drinking, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we have always put out front at Building a Refuge is we're going to meet guys where they're at. So that's really the bottom line when it comes to what we do and why. Like, if you think about a lot of the podcasts that we've hosted in Indiana, Beer Brewery was a big part of it. We've actually done one at Union Brewery. We've done them, do a lot of them at Harley Davidson of Indianapolis. So that's we always say thanks to them. Because they're a huge, supporter of ours, but they have a T-Bar cafe there too.
Yeah.
And a lot of our events revolve around music because we know music brings people together. Like most recently, hey Brian, what's going on, buddy? we might get Brian. Yeah, that's right. So and we know that music brings people together. So we just recently hosted in Indianapolis what was called the Heavy Metal for Hope. We know that community is tight. We know that community goes through as much shit as anywhere else. So I have a really good friend of mine, Mike Parsons. Huge shout out to him. He's a big help for what we do from a sound engineering perspective. When we do our produced podcasts, I'll share a little bit about that in a minute. But Mike is in a band called Altering Gray. They're a heavy metal. He probably will get mad at me for saying that, but they're a little metal, but they're in that genre of music, right? And Mike was always like, man, I hope one day like we can play at an event. And I was like, well, fuck it, man. Let's build an event around it. So we did that. We had 4 heavy metal bands, Wolf Tooth, Macy Ann Hayes, him, and one other band that opened for us. But man, just a cool event, great event. And it's a vertical, right? Like it's a vertical of, of music.
Right.
So, we have one coming up here in June that's pretty cool. It's it's kind of our pillar event, the Rock and Ride for Hope. It's coming June 7th in Indianapolis, Harley Davidson of Indianapolis. And it's a one-day music festival. It's the only one-day mental health music festival that I have found yet in the country.
Really?
A lot of them overseas.
Yeah. Well,
Brian, you know of one? He says no.
Just going to a concert can be helpful, but
what?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So at that event, man, we have a lot of food, it's around a lot of food stuff. It's around a lot of resources. So we bring a ton of resources out, so on and so forth. And Heath, one of those resources is our American veterans.
Awesome.
So we appreciate you for being a veteran.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about that experience for you.
Sure. So
where do I start?
Well, I don't know, it's back way up, right? So
That's right,
I
man.
grew up locally here, little town called Coon Valley.
Shout out.
Shout out. 20-minute drive from here. It's a small village, less than 1,000 people. Everybody knows everybody, right? So, anyways, go to high school. We get through high school. I'm not really sure what exactly I want to do. Like a lot of people, I think, that age. I don't know. It was hard for me to know if I was in the minority there or the majority. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I always kind of had this little fascination with the military growing up, and living out in the country. You're out, you're shooting guns, you're playing war or playing army or whatever. So, anyways, I graduate and right into boot camp, and coincidentally, I joined active duty Air Force. September 11th of 1996. It happened to be my anniversary date in the Air Force, which is kind of weird.
But let me jump in real quick. But where we come from in Coon Valley, there's a lot of military support there. A lot of families. I mean, big supporter Memorial Day, 4th of July, Veterans Day, American Legion. I mean, it's a big. You feel it.
There's a much higher percentage of yes than no. For sure.
Yeah. Right.
And I think a lot of that comes from majority of the families around there have had.
Somebody that
family,
has served,
right? Whether it be in their immediate family or down the line somewhere.
That's right.
Specifically, grandparents, right? World War II generation, Vietnam, stuff like that. So it's hard to run into anybody that's like, I'm not familiar with the military. I don't have anybody in my family at all that's ever served. It's very rare down there. So there's a ton of support.
So graduated. You're 18.
18. Went to boot camp.
Air Force. Did you mention that?
Active duty Air Force. Went to boot camp down in San Antonio, Texas. Got through that. Went through my tech training, we call it, or AIT, as some of the other branches call it. Went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Unfortunately for that, but and I shouldn't say that. I didn't get to experience
Good
much
people
of it.
in Missouri.
I'm sure there's plenty. I didn't get to experience it because you're under such a strict set of rules when you're going through training. They don't really let you do too much or go too many places.
Right
but anyways, so we get towards the end of my tech training there, and there's 7 guys in my class, right? So we start out with Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines. We're all training together. And at a certain point in training, we break off into what we called Air Force Unique. So then it's just the Air Force guys, just the Marines, just the Army, just the Navy in our separate branches. So there was, I think, 7 of us in my particular class.
Yep.
And you get to a certain point where you come towards the end of the training, and if they think you're going to graduate, because some didn't, your orders start coming out.
Yeah.
Where you're going to go to your first duty assignment, right?
Yeah.
So my first duty assignment came out, or my orders came out. It was to Yokota, Japan. I'm like, fuck, I don't speak Japanese. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to go there. So it's funny. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's funny. You put in what they call a wish list.
Did you get some butterflies when you got that notice? Like,
you're so young,
yeah,
right?
You don't know any different.
Dude, I grew up in Coon Valley, right? The only place I ever gone before that was to Indianapolis to hang out with you.
Here's the question.
That was it.
Had you ever had Japanese food before then?
I don't remember.
Maybe Benihana.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Maybe Benihana.
Was that even around back then? I mean, fuck. My first plane ride was going to boot camp. That was my first ride on a plane.
Yeah.
We just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So anyways, we get towards the end of training, my orders come out, Yokota, Japan. Now the instructors tell you, look, if you don't like where you went, well, let me back up here. You have a wish list, right? So you put down where you want to go, your top 5 choices or top 3 choices or whatever it was. At that time, I really didn't want to go overseas right away. I wanted to still try to figure out what this Air Force thing was about.
Yep.
I said, well, how can I stay close to home or as close to home as possible? Because there's really no active duty Air Force
Around
bases
here,
anywhere
right,
close.
yeah.
So I said, I'll go anywhere stateside. I just put anywhere stateside.
Yep.
So we had 7 guys. I think 3 of us put in, or 4 of us said anywhere stateside. 3 said, I'll go overseas. Fucking orders come out, dude. Everybody that said I want to go stateside got overseas orders. And everybody that said I want to go overseas got stateside orders. So everybody's like, what? To be expected, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyways, they said, well, you have, it was either 24 or 48 hours. I don't remember what it was. If you want to switch orders with somebody in your class, so there's only 7 of us, you can swap orders.
It's like playing poker. You can just sit down and be like, hey, guys, let's throw them in.
You have 24 hours. You say, hey, man. So anyway, backing up a little bit. I went through boot camp with a guy from Bemidji.
Where is that?
Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Or no. Bemidji.
Like
Iowa?
No, North Dakota. Where's Bemidji? Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Thank
you. Hey, we got an audience out here. Yeah, Bemidji, Minnesota. How about
That's
that?
Brian's wife, Arisa. Hi, Arisa.
Anybody from Bemidji, Minnesota? Anybody?
No.
Name.
Fuck no.
All right.
So anyways,
Nate didn't like that.
looked at, and it's like to my knowledge, you're almost up in Canada. Like it's as far north in Minnesota as you can go. It's fucking miserable.
Oh, okay.
There, right?
Yeah, right on.
So anyways, Thompson was his last name. I remember I went through boot camp with him. He didn't know what he wanted to do. He put in for the same shit I did. So we ended up getting orders together to Fort Leonard Wood together and ended up in the same class. So it just coincidentally. And he got orders to RAF Lakenheath in England. I'm like, well, fuck.
Oh, yeah, right on.
So that's how this happened, right?
Oh,
So
I don't think I've ever heard this story, man.
yeah. So we're
Wow.
sitting there. We have whatever I said, 24 or 48 hours. For some reason, I think it was 24 hours. You had till the next day. So you had to
Get on
right now.
Yeah.
Those instructors didn't care.
No.
They're like, fuck.
You're
They
going
just want
somewhere.
what they're wanting you to do is make a decision, be firm about it, and do it.
And they're filling a spot.
That's right.
So I said, well, fuck, I don't think they even speak English over in Yokota. England sounds awesome. And I don't know if I'm sure you've talked about this to people, but our grandmother's British. She's a World War II bride. So my grandfather
Shout out
was,
to Annie Olson.
Annie Olson, 99, going on 100 years
Going
old this
100
year.
years old this year.
So, Grandpa being in the Army Air Corps and stationed over in London, and we've got cousins over there that I've met previously to me going into the Air Force. I'm like, I'll give it a shot. So
Shout out to Neil and Lizzie.
Neil and Lizzie.
That's right.
And Patty.
Patty.
And I said, hey, Thompson, I got orders to Japan. You want to go there? I'll swap with you.
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd take. He goes, sure. I was, fuck.
Right, all right.
So
Sold.
immediately went to the instructor, said, hey, we want to swap. So that's how I got my orders to
Yeah, right on.
Um,
That's great. I don't know if I ever knew that. I thought you just got,
it was not
ordered and that was what it was.
kind of luck of the draw because orders came in that class of 7.
Yeah.
But it was really luck of the draw for him to say, yeah, okay. I don't care. I'm like, so we get through the tech training, and I came home for a brief period of time, a week or something like that, or whatever it was, a few days, and off to England.
Yeah.
So now my next plane ride was not across the country; it was across the pond.
There you go.
Get over there, get through your jet lag, and now you have a sponsor that takes you into the base and kind of shows you the ropes. You're brand new. It's your first duty. Some you don't know. You're still trying to figure out how to wear your uniform properly and all that sort of, you know what I mean? Like,
put your socks on.
Put your fucking socks on, not inside out, thanks. So we get over there, and Sergeant Crispin was his name, and he picked us up from the airport, and I spent 20 months stationed there. But in various places. Ended up in Ramstein, Germany, 3 times I think.
Egypt,
for
right?
Training. Well, that was when I came back to the States.
Okay.
So I do my time over there, which is great. I mean, a lot of history, lots of shit to see, and to think about the fact that England is about the size of Wisconsin,
right?
And there's that much shit over there to go see. I mean, you could spend a week in London and not see everything,
right?
London's a huge city, but very cool culture. Kind of see where Grandma came from, a little village called Tarpley, and see where she grew up. And I went to go see where her and Grandpa met. When she was 18 years old. She was my age when they met.
Right on.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what was that like being 18? You're probably 18, so at the time 19?
So I was 18. I actually had just turned 19.
So like
right before I went over there.
Like in those 27 months being away from home, like did you feel a lot? Was it kind of more of like, shit, I've been stuck in Coon Valley so long, this is great?
Yeah,
or
no, I was it was because I'd already gone, as an 18-year-old not knowing anything, you'd already gone through a lot. Boot camp, that's a major culture shock for you. Then you go to tech training, more of a culture shock for you. So you're still going through this stuff, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're going overseas. Like, well, shit,
Right.
But it was really good. You grow up fast.
Yeah, sure.
You grow up fast, and you have to.
Right.
You can't you walk around and just be a shitbag and expect things to work out for you. So you're learning a whole new level of discipline.
At an early age, I mean, as a kid, essentially.
Essentially,
I mean,
you're just fresh into adulthood, right? I grew up in Coon Valley.
Right.
I went
600 people.
Well, and I went to a high school of 400 students. We averaged about 100 kids a class. I think I graduated with 96 students.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
So you're completely out of that realm and into a brand new world, which was good. Looking back on it, it was actually awesome. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. But it was, you go through a whole bunch of emotions, excitement, and then you're kind of depressed because you're away from the family. You don't know anybody. You're I don't know, scared. Probably scared's the right word. You're scared because you don't know what's going on. You're hoping somebody is going to show you what to do.
And that's where I was going to kind of take it to next. So like when you were in those times, I guess, or spots where you were kind of down or missing home, like was there somebody there, whether in the Air Force or not, to pick you up?
Right. Good point. And at that time, it would have definitely been somebody in the Air Force because I lived on base,
right?
In the dormitories or in the barracks or whatever. Everybody calls them something a little different, but minus being down and visiting Neil and Lizzie and Patty.
Yeah.
And at that point, Lizzie, she's young. They're younger.
Yeah.
Not that they can't support.
Right.
But it's a different type. Patty kind of had that motherly.
Yeah.
So that was nice to cruise down there on the weekends or every couple of weekends or something. As far as on base goes, there's always resources.
Yeah.
But when you're like back then, now you're talking back in 1997,
right?
98, 99. It was just different. You were expected not to fucking say,
right.
Suck it up. And I still have that mentality with a lot of things.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, like you start getting overtaken by emotions, that's when you can start doing dumb shit or bad things happen or whatever. We're in a bar, right?
It's interesting you bring that up though, because we've had a guest on the podcast, Kyle Lamb, and you know who Kyle Lamb is.
I met Kyle Lamb. Yeah,
huge respect, right?
Yeah, he's awesome.
We were very blessed to have him on, but when you took that deep breath and you said, look, you can get overwhelmed by emotions, You know, when Kyle was talking about his experience in the military
Yep.
and the many, many things that he's done,
Yep.
you know, having that calm mind, having that, you know, that mindset is such an important part, not only in what you are doing, right? Not only what you were doing in the military, but in real life.
Well,
and it's something that you just don't pick it up.
no,
Right? It's like something you go, oh, I think I'm just going to take patience today, right? Like that's just not how it works.
No, it's whatever it is, it's inside you, right? It's finding a way to deal with it or finding a way to control
asking. Or asking people, right?
And as we sit in the bar, people try to control it with alcohol.
That's right.
Right? That's the easy. Fuck it! I'm gonna go get a drink. I'm gonna rip a couple shots.
That's right.
I'm gonna get drunk. I'm gonna go pass out. I'll black out. Whatever. I don't care.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And I tell people, and they may or may not believe me, but like when shitty things go on for me, I tend to pull away from drinking. It's like for me, if I'm drinking, I like to have fun. We're laughing, we're joking, we're guys insulting each other, and playing pool, whatever. You know, watching sports or whatever.
I mean, I've never been insulted in this bar ever.
No. If you walk in here and you're not called some kind of a fucking name, something's wrong. Like Nate's either sleepwalking or
right. As we're looking down on him, right?
Nate, the bartender, he's great. Whole hot sauce.
That's hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
He's not looking up here. He doesn't want any of us.
No, he's like, fuck you guys.
I wish we could give people a little like idea, man. Like we got a really cool bar area down here. We're in a loft area. And then we have this really cool piano window in front of us that gives us a really cool like look at the downtown area, at least a block here. We're across from John's Bar.
Right on world famous 3rd Street.
Yeah, world famous 3rd Street, about what, 2 blocks from the Mississippi River?
2 blocks. Yeah, it's exactly 2 blocks. We've been in the record books here a few times. Largest 6-pack of beer in the world.
Oh, that's great. Hey, we got a brewer here.
Bunky, our buddy Bunky,
that's
brought the beaver, works at the brewery.
World's largest 6-packs, Heileman's Brewery.
At one point in time, I think we were known for having most bars per capita.
Oh, yeah.
Which,
you
know, there you go.
World records.
Well, fuck, dude, you look at wherever you go, whoever you talk to, generally speaking, if you say you're from Wisconsin, there's that automatic, well, you must drink a lot.
Yeah,
it's automatic.
A great point,
dude. It's automatic.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Like, I'll give you a quick example. I went on vacation to Mexico, right? And there's this huge, and there's plenty of people watching that have been to Mexico. You know what I'm talking about. Big pool, big swim up bar, blah, blah, blah. There was, 5, 6 of us, or whatever, whoever went. Anyways, they try to play these poolside games.
Yeah.
Okay, fucking. Well, I get nominated. All right, whatever. You know, you win the football toss. You do the laps, whatever. There's a couple of events, right? So it comes down to me and another guy. He was from New York. I remember it specifically, and it was a tiebreaker event. Well, the tiebreaker event was supposed to be a dance-off. I said, fuck you, you win. I'm not dancing. Not doing it.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to dance either. Come up with another event. Okay, we're going to do a beer chugging competition. All right. So 3 beers, whatever, pint-sized glasses or whatever they were. As soon as they said beer chugging competition, and the guy came over and he's like, all right, hey, I'm Bob or whatever his name is. From New York. He goes, where are you from? I'm from Wisconsin. He goes, oh, fuck. Like, that was his response.
I'm beat. Yeah.
And he did get beat. But
that's beside the point.
That wasn't due to my drinking problem. That's due to my competitive nature. No. So, but anyways, it's just one little example of when you tell people, like, and I got it in the military all the time. Where are you from? Wisconsin. Oh, God, you guys drink a lot up there. Fuck, I mean, I don't. Well, I didn't back then. It wasn't legal to drink. And it became legal to drink when I got to England because their drinking age is 18.
Yeah. Well, man, here's the thing, like these podcasts like this where we have talks, you could talk about that for an hour. You know what I mean? Like why the drinking age in, European countries is so much less. And you think about, statistics and how it compares to the United States and blah, 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 blah. Like you get to have a whole talk just about that.
Easily.
Yeah. So let's circle. I want to circle back though, man. Really for a couple of reasons. One, so you ended up finishing your career though down in San Antonio as a drill sergeant.
I did. I'll scoot pretty quick through the rest of it. So I go to England. It was great. Got orders stateside, Ellsworth Air Force Base in Rapid City, South Tacoma. It's a bomber base. I spent time out there, did some instructing, did a few different jobs, whatever. While I was out there, deployed to Cairo, Egypt. Went over there, lived in the tent city for a few months, came back home, whatever. Got to go see pyramids and all this other cool shit that I otherwise never would probably go see.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, man. I
amazing
mean,
thing.
being like, I know there's a lot of talk about Egypt today, man, and
Well-
I was Rogan was talking about on his podcast that we have only researched 1% of Egypt.
That's insane.
1%.
And you think about a city the size of Cairo. Cairo is a fucking huge city.
Okay.
It's a huge city. But anyways, come back from Egypt, go back to South Dakota, get picked up for drill sergeant duty, go back down to San Antonio. So I start and end in San Antonio. The best job that I had, this is the common question I get, the very best job I think that I had, or the funnest job, was I was a military training leader for our Air Force pararescue,
Yeah, I remember you
combat
told me that.
control,
Yeah,
like our
yeah.
special ops guys who, when they're going through their indoctrination courses and stuff like that, right? They're trying to get into these programs,
Yeah.
they're trying to make it through. Well, fuck, their training pipeline is 2 years long. That's if they don't get washed
Washed
back,
out
hurt,
somewhere, yeah.
So the Air Force invests a lot of time and money in these guys and gals. But it was very cool to see that whole program because it's so very different than 99.9% of every other job in the Air Force.
Yeah.
It's just it's leaps and bounds different, and everybody thinks, oh well, that's not that. My job was better. I'm telling you, watching those guys.
Yeah.
Hey, how about it? Can I get a Blue Moon? I'm gonna get a beer. Well, fuck, what time? It's 1:30. No, so it was very cool. But and the reason why I bring that up is because when I was in charge of these guys and gals, mostly guys, there was only a couple programs that at that time they were letting females in. That was years ago. I was basically in charge of them 24/7. So, for example, not just like their on-duty training, right? So how they ate, when they ate, how many times they ate, if they ate, when they went to training, if they got to training, what they did, all this other stuff. Kept track of their training folders, their travel orders when they went to different schools like Halo, or they went to dive school, or they went to this or that or whatever. You're in charge of them, not only while they're there, but while they're gone. Furthermore, and the more important thing, I think, because
thank you, Bunky.
Thanks, Bunky.
God, that's right, Bunky.
Thanks, buddy.
No, I'm good, buddy. Thank you, sir.
So, cheers.
Unless you got some more of that beaver.
And this happened a lot, right? So you're in charge of them, so there's a lot of discipline going on.
Yeah.
I mean, they get in trouble. You're the one that's picking them up and
Right.
and smoking them, right? Let's go do some PT. Let's go.
Yeah.
How many guys and gals have heard this? Get on your face, start pushing.
Yep.
Shit like that. But anyways, when they're having problems, let's say, and it happened a lot with their family back home. Some of these guys and gals were married. They had families, or they had parents that had health issues, or they had, a friend died, or a family member died, or whatever.
Yep.
You're the one they're coming to.
That's right.
So you have to kind of know how to counsel on a human level.
Yeah.
Versus just to point.
That's cool, man.
Just point your finger and yell and scream and say, "Just do it."
Right.
Well, that's easy.
Right.
The hard part is because everybody responds differently to stuff, right?
Yeah.
So some people respond to that, some people shut down.
Right.
When a tragedy happens, or it doesn't even need to be a full-blown tragedy, but something serious, or could be serious, or whatever. Now they're looking for a different type of attention or help.
Yeah.
Right? So it's you're not sending them to a counselor; you are the counselor.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
you have to know how to do. You have to know how to set an example. You have to know how to kind of feel them out and say, "All right, I don't think they're going to respond to this. Here's how this." And I've got 300 of these people. And some of them you pick up on pretty quick, and you say, "All right, I know exactly how Jones over there is going to respond. I know exactly what's going to get him motivated."
Right.
So that was fun. And that taught me a lot about reading people.
Yep.
Right. So now I can come into a fucking bar. It doesn't need to be this bar, because this bar is 95% regulars.
Right.
Anybody that comes down here, everybody knows everybody. It's Coon Valley in a bar.
Except Oktoberfest.
That's
Get a few more in here.
But that job really taught me probably more in my 11 years than any other job did.
Oh yeah.
The rest of it was just kind of, hey, learn how to operate this, learn how to do that, learn how to march, learn how to teach march. Well, when people are coming up to you and saying, I feel like I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
You're like, oh fuck. If
Yeah.
you haven't dealt with that before, well, shit.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And there are other resources, right? So if you got really,
Well,
really
yeah,
serious,
I mean, I'm sure.
but here's the thing. Back then, if you went to the clinic, that was frowned upon.
Yeah,
Dude, people were like, fucking, they're
Yeah,
not.
you
The
could-
immediate thing was, oh, they're crazy.
that's right.
Right.
You,
Well,
you get tagged.
No, it's not. It was so far from that. But not only are you're doing that in the military, where
Yeah.
you're supposed to be, you know,
Right.
I can handle it. Well, maybe you can and maybe you can't.
Right.
But do you want to find that out now, or do you want to find it out while you're deployed?
Right.
Or do you want to find it out when
100%
you're
right.
in charge of somebody and you're responsible for somebody, and now you can't fucking think straight, or you can't operate properly, and now
Right.
you're putting other people's life at risk and whatever else. So it's changed a lot. I'm sure it's changed a lot. I mean, I've been out for a while now, but
Yeah.
back then that was kind of how it was.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
getting a mental health
and
evaluation.
Not only that, man, but you transitioned into, and Austin, you have some experience around this just because you did in high school, but you transitioned into law enforcement. I mean,
Right.
that's another
That's
big topic. We have we've had some guys come on that have been past law enforcement officers, but I mean, we've had a lot of guys come on, man. We've had a lot of guys, firemen and first responders and things like that. And I'll just say this, that's it's a part of the world that I think, what we do here at Building a Refuge. Matter of fact, we got one of our good friends in the audience, Mike Stevens. He's a big help for us when it comes to the veteran affairs, programs and benefits and things like that. So, it's important just to call it out, man. I mean,
it's changing. Thank
Well,
God. I mean,
look,
as far as the help goes.
Yeah, I mean, both him and I, Austin and I both have been blessed. I don't know, blessed or whatever, but do ride-alongs with you. And, we haven't seen everything, but you kind of get a feel. I mean, that's what a ride-along's all about.
Yeah, you get the gist. It's it can be dead as dead, or it can ramp up pretty quick.
Unless you were up here, that one was that was a
ramped up quick.
That was a ride along.
Yeah, we're busy here.
Yeah, I mean, which is wild, right? Because I think some people too think of La Crosse, Wisconsin, as this small town, but it's a gateway between Minneapolis and Chicago.
Where you got
Milwaukee
Rockford
too,
and Milwaukee, and I mean, even if you took that out of it, dude, there's and again, we could talk about this by itself for an hour.
Yeah,
but there's a lot more going on than people realize or see.
Well, look, I think at the end of the day, we hope that by doing this show, and maybe we'll get Brian to come up too. I'd love to have him. Yeah. But I want to, I mean, the reason that we decided to do this, here is because we want to be able to show people and folks that are listening, to this on a streaming service, man, that we don't have any boundaries of building a refuge. When we started this, as you guys know, obviously we lost a family member by suicide, and Eric Robinson, who's a great friend, co-host. Yeah, two. That's right. Two. Sometimes I skip that, and I shouldn't.
Well, I found out about that in this bar.
Yeah.
That's when I found out about Mark.
So, well, if you want to add that, Heath, we've had three. So,
yes,
between Mark, Brent, Sophie, it's crazy. When you tell somebody that, they get this look on their face like, holy shit,
what's going on?
So I've told people this, we don't feel compelled to do this. I don't feel like I have to do it by any means, but here's the deal. If we're going to do this, I'm going to do it in a way that I'm not going to intimidate people by doing it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big reasons why we do it here. And one of the big reasons, Austin, I asked you up front, man, how does it for you to come into a place like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's important to share that because here's the deal. I think anybody in here, whether they drink or they don't, care about people. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's a cliche, whatever. It's a family, right? I mean, this is a bar where, Packer games, people are bringing in food just to bring in food. Here's free fucking food. Here you go.
I know.
Oh, here's a fucking drink chip. Here's another drink. Here's 10 more drinks.
Yeah.
People are just, hang out.
It's funny to find that because, I've been a part of different bar scenes. And you can also find one that's just a toxic environment full of toxic people.
Yeah,
I mean, Joe Schmo on the corners here bar could be the worst in the world, but you come in here and it's a family. Like I said,
and here's the thing, if I had an issue with something, and that goes from my fucking air conditioner's not working to I need a new light fixture installed to I need some concrete work done to I need this, I need that. Somebody in here is going to fucking know. They're going to be like, what? When do you want to do that?
Well, and
and they're not charging you anything for it. They're just saying, buy me a beer.
Right.
Well, all
And
right.
I mean, I'm even talking on a deeper level to
Yeah.
where if you really are struggling with something
Oh,
and, you're like, hey, I trust this person
yeah.
with this information, knowledge, whatever, you could tell that to somebody else in a different environment, and then they're just going to go tell somebody else, and that person's going to go tell somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
you do get those environments where somebody will make your problem about
Yeah.
them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it does happen a lot. And that's why it's important to.
Well, it's
You
a
gotta-
judgment of character. I mean,
and there you go.
it's
Read
and
up,
which
people.
I for the longest time didn't have in my life because of the alcohol.
Right.
I had a very poor judging character because I was just blinded by everything else.
Yeah,
It's
and-
like, oh, if I said this and you were giving me any inkling of attention
Right.
or conversation piece, that's what I needed to fill me. And it was like, well, no, then shit just gets thrown everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's then you're in a jumbled fucking mess.
Yeah. And it gets messy quick. And
Yeah.
again, it's this bar happens to be one of those places where it's not really like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you get it at all of them,
Yeah.
to an extent, but there's just ones that are
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
stay away.
It's the bar's not all bad,
Well,
it's not
it's
a place.
no,
It's not a
no.
place to go get fucking hammered every time you go.
Right.
It's like look what we're doing. I'm my first beer of the day, everybody.
Yeah.
If I wanted to get hammered, I would have started when they opened at 10.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah.
That was my
It's
issue.
not-
But here's the other thing too, man. I think this. I know the bartenders well enough here. Nate, Kristen, Lindsay. Big Sexy.
Yeah.
Frank.
Yeah,
Freddie. I thought it said Frankie.
Freddie's sitting down at the end of the bar.
But man, I mean, they'd know. Like if you came rolling in here and you acted different,
They'd know.
they'd
Yep.
know,
And
and they're
you know
probably
what?
going to go, "Hey, man, what's going on?"
I 100% guarantee every one of those names you just mentioned. A couple of them specifically would be like, "Hey, you all right?
Yeah.
You know, you want?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
need something?"
Yeah.
It would be
Yep.
fucking immediate.
Oh yeah.
And you're not going to get that anywhere. If other places are like, Jesus Christ, I don't want this guy in here if he's got problems.
Right,
whatever.
right,
But
right.
they don't know you like that. So,
Well, yeah, and it's like it's 100%.
that goes
right.
back to
That's-
even what you
yeah.
were saying about the military. Then they're thinking, oh, he's a liability.
yeah. So-
Yeah, I mean,
There's something to be said. People are like, why you always go just to the Helm? Well, why not?
yeah.
Because I'm not going to get that other place. You might run into a couple of people here and there, but in here it's 75% of the clientele will be like,
Yeah.
"You all right?
Yeah.
What do you need?
Yeah.
You need help?" You
Yeah,
want-
man. I mean, that's the cool part. That's and even doing this, right? You were like, oh, dude, they're not going to care.
They are
Well, let's
not.
do this. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
fuck.
And it's fun because I think when you do it,
Nate was almost insulted. I asked him permission. I said, well, "Fuck, what do you?"
yeah, and that's the fun part because I think as time goes on, me and Austin were even talking about this and again, I'm so grateful that Austin, is a part of this. Our setup here we can take anywhere.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, and
Yeah.
what
I mean-
would it take you? 30 minutes to
Yeah.
set everything.
Yeah,
up?
30
about a half
minutes.
hour.
Yeah, and that's all thanks to LDR Studios, my buddy
There you go.
Clark Crosser. Listen, man, and that's such a great story to share because we wouldn't know Clark if we wouldn't do what we do at Building a Refuge,
Yeah.
and what Clark has been through losing his son by suicide.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
came to one of our meetings organically
Yep.
through a friend, and thanks for Gavin Good to he good guy sent Clark our way.
Yeah.
And now we've taken this step forward into this kind of multimedia world
Right.
where we've dropped 30 produced podcasts and
Damn.
we've dropped I don't know how many live podcasts because the environments are distinctively different. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? These are meant to be like this. You know what I mean? They're a little clunky. They're
Fun.
a little more
It's
homegrown.
more of a spitball kind of.
That's right. And but again, I think the two complexity of the environments, man, they really balance each other out because we just dropped one yesterday.
Yeah.
Really, really great podcast, number 30 from Trumpets. The sound of trumpets, anyways. Is that right? No.
That's
When the
not right.
trumpets sound.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
Yeah.
So Dakota King, young
I
man.
saw the clip.
Yeah, Dakota King, young man that we've known for a while. Amazing musician. Lost his best friend by suicide, and a day later, his son was born.
Dude.
And he shares this story. He's a military veteran, Army guy,
Yeah.
super cool guy.
Yeah.
Shares this story of he even felt guilty being happy about his son being born because he lost his best friend the night
and
before.
that's
Yeah.
how it affects you.
And he wrote the most beautiful song.
I
The kid
saw-
is so talented.
I saw that brief teaser clip that you put out there. Yeah. It sounded good.
We're hoping, man. We're hoping. So another young man, I'm going to plug this just for a second. Another young man, Tommy Baldwin.
Yeah.
We're hoping Tommy is working on a studio album right now and a tour and all this, and we're super jacked. LDR Studios producing it all. But we're kind of wanting to put a little mini tour together. So
bring him,
dude. We were hoping maybe we can get Dakota and him both to play.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You let me know.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's a good thing. I know enough people around here to ask questions and say, hey, can we get this done?
Yeah.
And not have to go through these certain channels of,
Right.
Yeah. Well, but again, it's the community, man. That's what it is. And I just, man, I want people to know, like, we don't do this because, like, I don't know. Listen, any organization that's out there today that is helping in mental health capacity in the mental health world, and I definitely want to let Brian come up here in a minute because I want to talk to him what he's doing in town. I know he does a lot.
He does a lot with the music.
And he's a great.
I can go get him.
Yeah, bounce down and grab him.
Just yell at him.
Hey, Brian.
Simpson. Get your ass up here.
So I didn't say it that way.
Brian will tell you about Brian will tell
or have Heath scoot down. One of these.
I can scoot down. It don't matter.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just I think.
Brian, come on out and fucking chat with
this guy's used. He's used to.
We're talking music.
Not my first.
It's not his first rodeo, man. Welcome, Brian. What's going on, buddy?
Well, it's nice to have a place where the headphones actually work, unlike mine.
Listen to that radio voice. God, I yearn, Brian. I yearn for that radio voice, man.
It's there's a term in the radio world called pukers.
Okay.
And they're the guys that talk like this.
It's 5 o'clock or so. How you doing?
And there's very few of them left. Obviously that's like a, 60s, 70s, 80s kind of DJ. A guy who would be like, "Hey, you're listening to Dirty Dan on the Radio Man and on the Wheels of Steel and all that crap.
57 degrees outside.
27 at your mom's house. Hey, no."
I love it, man.
I'm going to pause real quick.
Yeah.
So Brian's a local radio station DJ.
Yeah, Brian, where do you work, man? So everybody can.
So I do a morning show here in town on an active rock station, 95.7 The Rock, WRQT-FM.
Yes, sir.
I moved here in 2003. I did about a year part-time on The Rock, and then I did a couple of years on our top 40 station doing afternoons, and then eventually I got the morning show.
Tell them where you moved from.
I am originally from New Hampshire. I'm born and raised in southern New Hampshire on the border of Massachusetts in a town called Nashua.
Okay.
And then I moved around a little bit. I lived in Manchester, New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire, lived out on the seacoast for a while. And then eventually I ended up coming out here. I knew a guy that lived here. And so I ended up here. And,
so were you always in the radio business out that way?
Sort of. So we could spend a month doing podcasts on my life.
I love it.
It's been a weird travel. But anyways, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I dropped out of high school and I was sort of like floating around and trying to figure out. I was working in retail and I was working on cars and I was working in restaurants, doing a lot of different stuff, and nothing was really like satisfying me.
Yeah, right.
And then my best friend actually went to school for radio at a college in Manchester, New Hampshire called Hesser.
Okay.
It's no longer there, but I went and visited him one time, and you listen to radio growing up,
right on.
But you don't really. I never really thought about it as like a job.
Yeah.
But then when I went and saw him, I was like, oh man, I love music.
Right.
I got a lot of personality. I can talk, and obviously those are important things.
That's right. Yeah.
So I said, maybe I'll do that. And I went to school for it for a couple of years. And I've been in radio ever since.
That's awesome.
99. So 25, almost.
So you've
years.
seen the technology change considerably in music. Well, in the radio entertainment business, I guess.
Yeah. And things are, I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. When I started in radio at the college station, they were still queuing up records.
Yeah.
And, for anyone who knows.
Is there any part of you that still would like to go back to that at all?
Well, yes, because there's a skill to it that a lot of people don't have. I mean, everything's digital now, and that's fine. It makes it easy. You can go take a poop, which is really nice.
That's right.
Well, like back in the day with radio, you had 2.5, 3, 4 minutes, or you'd have to put Led Zeppelin on
if you had
to poop,
or a long Pink Floyd song.
Yeah, and there's plenty of those.
Yeah.
But no, so I do miss there's a skill to it. There's a personality to it. Every DJ kind of, had their own kind of technique. And, we went from records to carts. Now carts are like, in the radio world, they're like an 8-track.
Yeah.
And so you would put them in like a cart reader, and you would fire them off on the board, and like you'd be pulling them out and trying to, so when you hear my show, it's really simple because everything's in the computer, and
Okay.
I'm just dragging things into what's considered the log.
You
which
stack them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with carts, it was physical. So as a DJ, you'd have to be physically doing that and pressing buttons and talking. And so there was like a real technique and skill.
Yeah.
And you don't see it anymore. No one does it.
It reminds me of the days like you'd see the old switchboard operators. You know
kind
what I mean?
of.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. And it was, I remember the first internship that I ever had was on WAAF 107.3 in Boston. And it was an active rock station that I loved. I listened to it, all the time when I was a kid. And I interned for the morning show, the Greg Hill morning show. And the guy who ran the show, the producer of the show, he would do that. And it wasn't like all the time or every day.
Yeah.
But there was certain features, that what we call features, benchmarks, things that we would do on a daily, weekly basis.
Yeah.
And when those would come up and I'd watch him, I was just enthralled by his skill. And I'm like, that's incredible.
Yeah, I love it, man. That's cool stuff. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because one of the guys, like I said, Clark here at LDR Studios, that helps us with all this. We have some guys that work with us that have worked in radio, and they still kind of do it part-time today. You know what I mean? But a lot, like you said, it's all recorded. So they go in, they record their stuff, and then it might air at, 2 in the morning to 4 in the morning or whatever. And
it's unfortunate. It's even before I moved here over 20 years ago, the station I worked at, Rock 101 in Manchester, we were they call it voice tracking.
Yep.
And you would go in and you'd voice track, but it was mostly so you wouldn't have to have part-time people on the weekends.
Yeah.
So the full-time on-air staff, the guys on the day shift and the afternoons and night guys, you would hear them on the weekends.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have to actually physically be there.
Yeah.
And back then it was nice, but now it's like that's all they do because it's cheap and it's easy. And even our show, they're using us to be in 2 markets. Now, you can look at that in 2 different ways. You can say, okay, well, it's great because we're expanding our market hold by being in 2 different markets. But at the same time, there's also people who worked in radio who don't have a job now because we kind of took their gig,
Yeah.
So,
well, the cool thing is I have your guys' app downloaded, man, and it's fun because I can pop it on, listen to you guys, which is, I wouldn't known about it if it wasn't for Heath and meeting you and
the Gunny,
right?
Well, funny story, Brian. Tell them how we met.
We met
now backing up when I transitioned from the military to being a police officer here in La Crosse.
Am I too close to the mic?
No, you're good, man.
You're good,
Heath might be a little bit far away.
Sorry. Yeah.
We know how to get up on it, Brian.
So go ahead, bro.
Yeah. So the Gunny, I was
Gunny, I love it.
I was doing. There was years ago. I don't think they do it anymore, but. So they would, the police here in town would invite local members of the media and other people to come and take it was like a citizen policing course.
Oh yeah, right on.
And it was pretty
Informative,
diverse, and informative.
Gives you more awareness.
It wasn't just like a one-time 2-hour thing.
Yeah,
it was several weeks. I think it was like 13 weeks, right? It was like 2.5 months.
I think I remember this. I'm not gonna spoil you. Spoiler alert! But I remember this.
You had to be dedicated to it,
right? And it was it was Tuesdays for like 13 weeks, and it was a couple hours. And what was cool is, as a person who I support the police, I always have. I've had my run-ins.
I get it. We all have, man. It is what it is, right?
And I've been called a bootlicker before by people, and like whatever, dude. Then stop committing crimes. Maybe you won't have such a bad outlook on the police. Anyways, but no. So it was a really cool, informative way to see how they operate, and the city here, but right before this class that I took, actually had a really bad situation where there was an officer at the time who I believe was stealing drugs out of the evidence locker and got caught. And so there was a lot of questions and maybe some distrust with the police department because you're a citizen and you're like, what the hell are you guys doing over there?
Right.
And if you already have a jaded view of the police department, you're sort of like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
So for us to go in there and to really like see, how things work, there was also a very famous case, a murder case here in town that had occurred a few years ago and had gone through the courts and gotten solved and everything else. And the guy was, and all that stuff.
Yep.
We actually got to, as a part of that class, we got to see how they did the investigation. We got to see what they did and how they like figured out who this person was. And it was like really interesting and a real deep dive. Anyways,
and it was media focused though, right? It was just for folks in media.
Yeah,
it wasn't a public thing.
There was a couple of radio, a couple of newspaper, and there might have been.
That makes sense though. That makes sense.
It wasn't like open to the public.
But that makes complete sense though, because you think about who broadcasts what's going on, right? Y'all are there.
They obviously want you to go out and tell people, and it was like 20, I don't know, 20 or so people. It was a smaller class.
Yep.
But you would like, we'd learn about guns, and we'd learn about techniques and how they come up to your car and all these things, and why they come up to the other side and why they shine the light, all that stuff.
And the why is the bigger part of that.
So, and then of course, towards the end of the class, one of the final classes was taser training. And I'm not.
I think there's a YouTube video.
There is. It's my best friend Donut, who I went to college and saw at college. His kid Jake, who is like my nephew, he loves that video, and he will text me. He's like, "I'm watching the video, you getting tased. I'm laughing my ass off," and I'm like, "You son of a bitch."
See, that's why dudes get a kick out of shit like this.
So we, as the radio guy, and everybody kind of knew who I was. Not to like toot my horn here, but like everyone knows me, whatever. I've been around and I'm loud, and everyone sort of, figures out who I am.
Yeah.
So as the guy, I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, "Oh,
you
who
gotta
wants?"
react.
I'm like, I have to do it, right? I didn't want to do it. Honestly, I wasn't so much worried about the pain.
I saw it in your eyes right there. I didn't want to do it.
I was worried about shitting myself because you hear these stories and you hear these urban legends, and you're like, "Oh my god, I'm going to lose
your pants or
control of my bowels in front of all these people. It's going to be a thing." So I was ready to ride the lightning, and thankfully, the gunny was still employed by the police department at the time, and he was one of the officers that was holding me up. And then I got
from smashing his face on the floor.
Yeah.
And
what's
he
crazy?
did lay you down nicely.
There's two crazy things about this. There was one guy that got tased, and he took like 3 steps.
Oh,
like he walked.
Yeah.
So that video of, do you remember
face?
Do you remember Cops, like the show Cops? Obviously,
yeah.
There's that very famous scene in it's like in the introduction of like the intro of the show.
Yeah.
And there's that naked guy, and he's like smashing through a fence, and he's like, and they're tasing him and hitting him with the PCP.
Still rolling.
And I'm like, is this guy on PCP? Because how do you walk? How do you walk?
I get the like envisionment, like in The Hangover when he freaking nailed Zach. What's his name?
Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah,
right
they're
in the
like
face.
in the face.
So I got my barbs went in the back, lower back, and then down to my calf muscle.
Oh,
and so like you tense up, and I was like, "Ooh!" And I had never really like felt. It's almost not even like a pain. It's just this. I don't know what's going on. My brain is overloaded with what the hell is happening to my system.
Yeah.
Because if you like roll over in bed and you start to get a Charlie horse, or you
you feel it coming on.
Right. You start to like move in a way that it's not exacerbating that issue. I didn't know what to do, so I just went down and.
Dude, I saw the video. It's intense. I would not want to be tased.
And that's
no way.
That's how Heath and I. Well, I will say, as a person who has been now tased and hit with pepper spray, I'll take the taser any day over the pepper spray.
No kidding.
I agree with him.
I rember your days. You'd tell me your training deals.
Fucking tased 3 times. I've been pepper sprayed 3 times, and the taser immediately.
I was a bouncer at a bar years ago, and we had a big fight out in the parking lot, and the cops showed up, and they said, "Fuck it," and they just hit everybody in the face. And they just, and you're, just holding on to somebody trying to stop. And like, it gets in your, obviously it gets in your eyes, gets in your lungs. It's the after effects though, where it's like, you touch your wiener, you touch your eyes, it's like, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Rub your ass. You're like, it's not good. It's not good. Well, Brian, share me a little bit, man. I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years through Heath. And I know, whether through the station or you personally, man, you guys do a lot around town for mental health and veterans and just mental health in general. And, And I know you and I have, had some chats about it. We do, like I said, the Rock and Ride for Hope, out of our Harley dealership. You're a rider. You ride out of Great River here. And the great state of Wisconsin.
You're gonna have to come back when they finish their remodel.
Yeah, I just drove by it the other day. Yeah,
impressive.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Well, I got a patch on my jacket that says Great River, man.
Nice.
So I represent.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. I know it's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, and I'm glad you were here today. So
yeah, I'm glad to be a part of it. And we did years ago. We started doing Movember.
Yep.
I mean, over a decade ago. When it started to kind of become this thing, and we really every May it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we would have different doctors and different specialists in the area come in and talk to us on our show every week.
Yeah.
And really try to, especially for guys, I have firsthand knowledge. My father was in Vietnam and he came back fucked up, and I suffered the brunt of it, and so did my mom, and they're both dead now. But I deal with a lot of this myself personally, because while I may not have served and I may not have, I went through a lot of that because my dad was the guy who kept loaded guns around the house and was afraid people were going to break in.
Real.
And we lived in a suburban neighborhood where no one was breaking in. You know what I mean? He was just this crazy guy. And I didn't know it at the time, but now that I have the benefit of hindsight and I'm an adult and I've been able to talk to people like Heath and other veterans and other people who served and understand where that came from for him.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make me feel better, but it makes me understand it.
That's right.
And it also, as you mentioned, it makes you understand the impact of getting help.
That's right.
My dad never said he was going to go talk to somebody or go to a therapist or go.
Yeah, it wasn't a part of the DNA.
That was the 80s and maybe early 90s, so that wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, even when I was in late 90s through into 2000s, I guess.
Yeah.
Same thing. If you needed a mental health evaluation for any reason, or somebody said, "Hey, you need to go to the mental health clinic,"
Maybe a check mark on your.
Talk to a counselor about something. Yeah. People are like, fuck
it's on
that,
record.
Fuck that.
That's the biggest thing. It's quite frankly, it's a lot of the reasons why physicians, people in those type of professions, they won't do it because they know that it'll be on a record.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then if something does happen, their mind goes, if something does happen, they can always pinpoint back to, well, you came in that time, remember?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks about it, man. I mean, that's all a part of the stigma.
There's still a huge stigma, and it's, obviously we're talking about men, and I'm sure it's for everybody, but even in this day and age, you don't have to have PTSD or watch a bunch of dudes died in a war to have mental issues and the need to talk to somebody about it. I know obviously those people, it's a huge deal for them, but you can go through abuse as a child, or you can go through a lot of fucked up shit in your life, and if you don't deal with that stuff,
that's right.
You know what you're gonna do? You're gonna start drinking. You're gonna start gambling. Take it from a guy who knows. Take it from a guy who's got a lot of vices. And
all right,
what we were talking about earlier.
But it's important, and it's and it's always that first step. It's always being able to say, hey, look, man, I got a problem.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, and the reason I asked, it's one of the reasons we do what we do. We were talking a little bit about this earlier when Austin was up. I mean, it's the reason we do. It's why we do things at Building a Refuge the way we do. It's why we say, hey, man, can we come in here and do a podcast in your bar, right? We had Austin talk. Austin's been 9 months sober. He's my son. I went through it as a parent. I had to drop him off. You know what I mean? My wife and I did this. These are real life things that happen. But I asked Austin today, I'm like, hey, man, how do you feel about coming in a bar, right? You don't drink anymore and do things like this. Because he's comfortable. Now, when he got back, he wasn't as comfortable. He said, I don't want to sit at a bar. I want to be on a rail, right? That's fine. We don't have to. But, I mean, I think what he's done, and I hope that what it does do is it just shows that it's okay. It's okay, man.
He hasn't been treated any different in here.
No, fuck no.
Or anywhere else, probably.
No,
whether he drinks or
not at all.
Nobody gives a shit.
No, right? Not at all. And, I mean, and that's, I think, a part of the stigma as well. If somebody wants to do it, and it's a complete choice, man. Nobody says, hey, just because you have a beer or whatever, you should quit drinking. That's not what we're telling anybody. No. I'm just saying, if that's what somebody wants to do, right? And maybe they know, hey, I need to or whatever, dude, just all we try to do here, man, is just get the door open a little bit. Yeah. We just want the door to squeak open and say, hey, it's okay.
Well, and it's tough too, because I think, and from my personal, experience, I have trouble. I just have a hard time talking to people that I don't know.
Of course.
You go and you sit down and you're like, I'm supposed to tell this stranger all my innermost shit.
Yeah.
And then think that like it's okay and like you're gonna help me or you know, so it's as a person who struggles with mental health issues or with, you know, all that stuff, you're like, I'd rather just eat it and tuck it way down away and not deal with it because I'm terrified of like telling some stranger.
That's
right.
right.
I don't even talk to my wife about some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
well, I'm sure none of us do, right?
So,
I mean,
like,
it's all
God
normal.
forbid I'm going to go talk to some strange person, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So there's that, and then there's the stigma of it all, and then there's the machismo aspect. Like, I'm a man, and I can just, I'll be fine. And,
dude, it's all of it.
You know,
it's
like,
100% of all of it, man. I mean, and again, it's one of the reasons why we do things the way we do them, and that is we're going to meet guys right where they're at. And if that means we set up in a bar and do it, so be it. Yeah. That means if we got to go to a golf course or a Harley event or whatever.
And like we're talking, you come into a bar like this, you can impact a lot of people in one spot, right? Versus going to a bar where if Brian and I were over at John's and we don't know anybody else in that bar, we're not we're not talking to anybody else. We don't care. I'm not introducing you to other people.
Here's what I've learned, though. And Heath, thanks for this, man. I mean, Heath and I are more like brothers than we are cousins. We've grown up just so close to one another. But even
he used to beat the shit out of me as a kid.
Not anymore, right?
No,
I hope not.
Man, I'm way too old. I'm way too old for that shit, Brian. I'm too fat, man. I can't do that stuff anymore. Yeah, but what like it's done, and this is what humbles me. Like we always tell people too. Like, look, man, we kind of run a little reckless. We don't know where things go, right? And that's okay. Like, there's parts of me that I really love that kind of. Just throw the sail and we'll see what happens, right?
Catch the wind.
But what it's done here is because Heath and Ed and Bunky and some of the guys here have come down and helped, not just come to it, but helped out greatly. Wearing shirts like this or wearing a hat or wearing a sweatshirt or wearing whatever.
We're going to get you one.
Somebody comes up and they're like, hey, what is that?
Right.
If that's what they do, man, I am fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, because I know what he's going to do is he's going to go, oh, well, I'll tell you what it is. And maybe, Brian, that guy
goes online.
Well, or goes online, but just needed that, like, oh, wow, I didn't know there was something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Todd,
you know what I mean?
Todd Bloomquist that was in here asked you about it, right?
Yeah.
The other night.
Yeah.
And it was like, what is that?
Yeah.
It was just that quick.
Yeah,
all of a sudden, he's like, well, I want to
Well, he did tell me, and he shared some personal stuff with me.
And then he went in with the story.
Yeah.
So it was just like
and that's just it, man.
I think that's, you know, that's probably the best way to make that first step is like, oh, okay, here's a guy who I can talk to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is doing
no judgment.
Right. There's and I don't have to make an appointment. I don't have to like tell my wife I'm going in to see somebody. I don't have to like, it's just, you know, I'm like you said, meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And it's very important because that's where they're going to be a little more open and a little more honest.
Well, it's like I tell people all the time, man. I mean, I wish I had the luxury we could do this. I could do this full time. You know, I have a professional job.
Right.
I don't know if that's even the right way to put it, but I have a job. But if I could do this full time, you know, I would do it. We always are seeking sponsorship. We're always like seeking, you know, that's why we put as much content out as we can because, man, I hope one day somebody sees it and maybe is connected to it. Because what we've learned that the people that I go to, like, for example, we're trying to raise money right now for the Rock and Ride for Hope, right? Because you get this, Brian, you're in the business. The bigger the budget, the bigger the bands, right? So we're trying to find some bands either that would do it at a discounted price or find big enough hook bands that they'll come in and we have the money to pay them, right? But it takes hard work to go find that.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing. That's
and
where
they're also being asked by many other organizations that are
much bigger than us.
Well, and maybe not so much better or worse. It's just more of like it's just like bars around here getting asked for $25 gift cards for a benefit. It's
that's
like
exactly
at
right.
some point that well dries up. You know what I mean? And it's like,
and that's why we try to constantly go to different people. Now I have like Everyday GSD, really good friend of mine in Indianapolis. He's a veteran. He runs a podcast called Everyday GSD. Darren is awesome. Darren's like, look, man, as long as I can give to you, I will always give this amount. They give $5,000 to us every year for it.
Nice.
So we always know we have that base right out of the gate, which helps pay for the stage. It helps pay for the tents, helps pay for some of the front end costs. But I could use another 10 grand just in bands alone. Shit, I could use 50 grand if I really wanted to get, you know, man, I'd love to have Shinedown come and play, but that's 100 grand.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But here's the deal, Brian. I know this. I might come across somebody that'd be like, 100 grand's nothing.
Right.
Where do you want me to send a check? If you can get Shinedown to come in and play, we'll play for it. And so that's why we put content like this out because I don't give a shit to get told no. I just don't care. Been in sales for
That's
30 years of my
That's
life,
sales.
right? I just don't care.
Yep.
But I also know too the reason we put a lot of content out is somebody might stumble across this at 2 a.m, at 1 a.m, at whatever in the morning, or somebody might say, hey, Brian was on this podcast, man. Go check it out.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
It's that just takes one mentality.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's 100% it, So, but I appreciate what you guys do. I know listening to the station, like I said, I'm blessed because if I go out on a run or I'm on the bike or whatever, I can throw you guys on and I love the music.
I love
you play.
apps. I love apps.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, well, I like that style of music.
That fucking radio voice.
Yeah, yeah, right. And it's fun to have. It's fun to have local people that people know. I mean, people know you in town, man.
And shout out to Gene. Gene, you do just fine as well.
There's always a yin to the yang kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's my yin to my yang or whatever you want to call it.
You guys do great, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
so
thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you on, buddy, and hopefully we can get something planned up here for building a refuge. Heath and I have been trying to figure out, brainstorm
and
on some
told
ideas.
Him, let me know, and we'll figure it out. And the Harley guys, obviously they're dealing with their remodel right now, but we can get something going. It'd be great.
Yeah, man. If you're free June 7th, come on down for it, man.
I'm driving. If you want to ride,
bring your bike.
Depends on the rock stop schedule.
I know that
bike giveaway.
I know that one, and I know the toy ride. Right, the toy that's a big one.
So we do a ride in May called Big Bikes for Little Tykes, and it's for one family with a kid who usually has some pretty special and severe medical issues. We've been doing that since before the radio station was even a radio station, if you could believe it.
Yeah.
And then right at 2 weeks after that, we start the 95 Days of Summer, which is our annual motorcycle giveaway.
Yeah.
And so that kind of takes us through the summer. And there's just a lot of summer. I always tell my wife, I'm like, don't plan on anything in the summertime because it ain't happening.
Yeah. Well, I came up for the Great River Rally. That was pretty fun.
That's going to move to June this year.
Okay.
So
FYI,
right on. And it might actually. I think it's maybe late June, so I think we'll be okay in terms of scheduling. But
that was a fun route, man. I haven't had the opportunity to do a lot of riding up here. I grew up, Coon Valley, but
obviously
scenery itself,
dude. That ride over to Hillsborough is amazing.
Yeah, and it's what's really cool about that is that for small communities, the roads are in really good shape.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of really good work down there. So obviously around La Crosse, the roads are shit, but you get outside
they're
of
a little
La Crosse,
bumpy around here.
It is brutal. It's brutal. Well, the issue is a lot of them are state highways, so it's state or city money, and it's just at least that's what they like to tell you.
Nobody wants to pay.
Yeah, nobody wants to pay basically. But you get out in the counties and stuff, and they do a pretty good job.
Yeah, I know south down 35 can get a little bumpy, but I mean if you get out of there and you head towards Coon Valley or whatever on the back roads, man, it's awesome.
It's one of the best fall rides you're gonna take.
Yeah. Well, Brian, thanks a bunch, man. We appreciate you being on. We're going to wrap up here for the day.
I'll be down in a bit.
Yeah, buddy.
Really rounds on me.
Grateful for you, man.
2X, 3X, 2X.
All right, we'll get you hooked up, buddy, for sure. Austin's coming back up here.
Oh, come on, Austin.
Yeah, jump in here, buddy. We're gonna wrap it up. Appreciate everybody.
That is not mine.
That's right. He's just a runner right now. So I like that Wisconsin shirt you got on, bro.
Thanks.
1994 Rose Bowl.
Shout out.
Shout out, Brian. What are you thinking about?
I lost my phone.
Oh, it's right here.
That's my phone.
Oh, that's your phone? All right. It's probably down there somewhere. We'll find it. But anyways, man, we appreciate Deb. We appreciate the Helm. We appreciate Nate, everybody here anyways,
I'll
man.
send this to Deb so she can check it out.
So anybody that checks us out, like I said, if you're listening to us streaming-wise, and you're in La Crosse, Wisconsin, make sure you make your way by the Helm right down on 3rd Street.
108 3rd Street North.
Come on in and say hello to Nate, Kristen, Lindsay, Freddie. Sexy.
Big Sexy,
yeah, man. If you're in town, though, man, come and check them out. It's a great area. Check the whole downtown area out. It's really cool. So
if I don't start fucking selling more, I might get a part-time job.
There you go. You might need to
see me for Christ's sake.
You spend enough money here. That's right. But thank you guys for joining in today.
Yeah, thanks,
thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
It's something I've wanted to do we've talked about it for a long time. So
well, now you broke your cherry today on this thing, man.
Living 500 miles apart doesn't make it real easy. So
well, that's okay. We're up here enough.
We need to do it again.
Yeah,
we will. We'll definitely do it again. But if you are, we always end this way. If you are struggling or if you need help, just know you're not alone. You can go out to our website. We have a lot of resources at buildingarefuge.org. And you can text 494949, the word refuge to 494949. It's an anonymous line. You can also use 988, National Suicide support line you were getting ready to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, otherwise, if you're local and you're not down in Indy and you're up here in La Crosse, just come down to the Helm and find me. We'll talk.
Yeah, that's
It's
right,
easy to
man.
find.
Yeah, buddy, I appreciate that. Everybody we've ever had on here, man, they've all been like that. We had one guy, man, like with this, he's like, call me on my cell phone number. And I'm like, and he gave it out, man, this football coach, and super, like, this guy's had a crazy story. It's another good point. If you guys want to go check out our podcast, definitely like and subscribe on YouTube. You can find all of our podcasts there on our website as well. But yeah, man, it gives his personal phone number out, which I don't care. I'd give mine out too. I mean, it's not a big deal, but
it's fine.
you know, anyways, with the security these days, you just, you know, you can't be, I guess, safe enough. Austin, anything you want to wrap up, buddy?
Nice hat.
No, thanks.
Man, I need that hat.
No, I guess final words from me are, you know, just along the lines of, you know, people who may say us doing things around a bar and stuff like that. Well, you know, I got my help through building a refuge. So,
it's a bar.
You know, it's not about where we're doing our podcast messages at. It's about the message we send out.
That's right.
And, you know, like I said on my podcast, if it helps one person, so man.
Amen. Man. I mean, you can tune in on Tuesday nights. We do a live podcast right now. We're walking through the book of Romans, and it's a more faith-based approach to what we do. But some people resonate to that, right?
Yeah.
And we don't want to miss that, because for me personally, it means a lot to me, but we don't ever put it on anybody that it has to be for them, right? That's not what we're going to do. But we just thought it's kind of cool. It's called Pursuing the Heart. And but man, you just never know where we're going to show up.
Yeah.
Fucking love it.
Until the next bar, we will be back at some point in time down the road.
Yep.
All right, guys.
All right.
Just be good to somebody, man.
Thanks, guys.
Reach out. Thanks, Austin.